And we are live. I'll give everyone approximately 2 minutes to receive notification from Google, and hopefully that will come smoothly and efficiently. I encourage you, for those who are attending live, please feel free to join our conversation. Remember to sign on to your Google account, introduce yourself into our chat box, and as always, I appreciate your support. This is a slightly different discussion today, as it is beyond our normal 0600 and high noon broadcast during the market day. And it is due to a number of questions I received. As always, I appreciate the support of our community, our hunting party, and I encourage each one of you who have yet to make it part of your daily visit online to do so. There's nothing being sold here. There is no link to a blog newsletter or anything like that. Just trying to give back to the investment community. Do remember, none of the commentary here, this is really an educational service. There is no prompt, as I just said, there is no prompt for a sale or things like that. This is an educational service, and please look to make your own investment decisions, and I'm not making any certainly investment advice here. Educational first. First of all, though, as we start this off, I do want to welcome each one of you. If this is your first time attending, as I just noted, please, I hope to see you here as part of our daily journey each day. And if you're a regular, so one of our regular viewers, my beautiful Anusha Karsis, my clientele, investors, families, friends, McNeek, as always, I appreciate your support. Means a great deal to me. And remember, I do not sugarcoat, I do not pander. I'm certainly not running for political office. That's absolutely not the case. Although today's discussion will make you wonder that at times. But I'm not going to sugarcoat, not going to pander. I think those are the real problems of our world today. And it has led to, it's been going on for maybe a quarter century and led to many of the problems we have right now. No sugarcoating, no pandering, and let's stop the political correctness. Be gentlemen and courteous, ladylike behavior as professionals, but the constant political correctness has really led us astray and turned us into well, it's ridiculous in every corner, and it certainly affects our topic today as a consequence of our talk today, clean energy, as we'll go. First of all, let me just see who's attending today live. Carrie, thank you very much for joining us. As always, a pleasure. Thank you very much for your support. There's low carbon fasting. Nairi, my dear, thank you very much for joining us always, and we'll speak to him shortly. Greg, thank you very much for joining us for this interesting afternoon session. Thank you. Greg, thank you. Andreas, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the coffee. Certainly is great. Mike, hope all is well. Thank you very much. Getting a little bit brisk up here right now. Chilly Sunday afternoon. Dominic, thank you very much. Hope all is well in Germany. As always, we appreciate your support. John, great to see you here. Thank you very much for joining us. David, hope all is well in beautiful Houston. Enjoying a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Wonderful. Dr. Ovidia, great to see you here. Thank you very much for joining. As always, I appreciate your support. And as always, I encourage everyone to take a look at Dr. Ovidia's new book and why you should make sure that you stay off his operating table. I'm going to go off topic here for a brief second here. Remember, if we had leaders in our health profession with the knowledge, wisdom, and ethics, as Dr. Vadia at charge, things would be vastly different in our world today, and not simply matters of the last 2 years, but matters, let's say, the last 50 years. So please take the time to get to know Dr. Obadia. Cody, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Brian, hope all is well in beautiful Dallas-Fort Worth. David, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope all is well in St. Louis. Daryl, thank you very much. Hope you're getting ready for a wonderful Sunday dinner. Okay, today's topic, let me go through it. I'm actually going to borrow upon some of my notes here, and because I've had so many questions here on this. You've heard my disclaimer on this. You have to make your own investment decisions on this. But I've been asked so many questions regarding the so-called, what is referred to as clean energy. And it does get rather ridiculous at times here. But I thought best, rather than, because I've had requests on writing private blogs or private newsletters for their clientele. No, for this one, I'm going to publish it. I'm going to release it in the form of a video. And if they want to draw upon it, fine. But we'll make it very public and whatnot, as opposed to just keeping it specific or keeping it reserved for certain groups and accredited investors. So I want this. First of all, again, my disclaimer, this is not investment advice, but I just want to mention to you this. Let me just tell you, clean energy is not really clean energy. Clean energy is a wonderful phrase, and it is a tremendous phrase that is used by politicians. If we are talking about environmental action to better the world, our topics would be, our discussion would be vastly different. And I trust you understand it would be vastly different. But what was uncovered a number of years ago by politicians is the use of the term clean energy. And pardon me as I situate this around perfectly. Clean energy is now a political phrase. It certainly is not a process of greening, the better greening the world, pardon me, of really environmental action and change to our industrial. It is not so clean. And in fact, I would suggest to you, not only is clean energy not so clean, Benny, great to see you here. Thank you very much for joining us. Clean energy is not so clean, I suggest to you, it not only is just simply a zero-sum game that really represents a transfer of power and is used by politicians to gain electoral support, but for that matter, will cause undue economic stress in vast parts of the world, extreme political upheaval, and it actually may at this time be a negative to the environment. No, it is simply a suggestion, a term that politicians use and has absolutely nothing. But politicians have used this wonderfully, and they've weaponized something something what politicians do. They divide. They don't bring us together. Now they realize they divide, they conquer in that way, and they never actually do something that brings people together. Unfortunately, that's where we stand with politicians today. Politicians divide as opposed to unite, hence why they're really not true leaders. Now, this is interesting, and from a standpoint, I'm not going to go too long on this area here, but it truthfully this is one topic that should cross both sides of the aisle. All politicians, all part of the public. Not one person should be not in favor of a better environment, at least safekeeping our world, the beauty of our world. This is the one area we all should be united in agreement for. Maybe the path to doing it will be different, but we should all be united. The one thing that clean energy has done, and let's say the clean energy and EV movement of 2021, and I'll go back to this maybe starting really in 1996, 98 region, and even before that, is learn how to weaponize their words and unite people against it. Clean energy, and pardon me, and one thing about it is making a great deal of money on it, because behind in the background in clean energy is a massive transfer of wealth. So this is my first point that I wish to make to you. If you're really serious about the environment, I call myself an environmentalist in action. That means that you just might be living in a city where I've built some of the public gardens and given it back to the region, or taking care of the environment. You might be part of it. I'm an environmentalist action. That doesn't mean I tweet about it. That means I do the things that I know that better off our world. Always leave things a little better off than when you came in. Give more than you take. That applies to the environment too. But what happened with clean energy and EV is they learned how to make a great deal of money with it. You are not saving the planet if you're worried about your EV sports car. That's not saving the planet. That really is just virtue signaling. If you really want to know, we should have an autonomous guide on all EV vehicles that doesn't allow them to go a certain amount above the speed limit, only regulated by obviously an emergency situation. Hence, a sports car is absolutely ridiculous. But as I just posted from a tweet many years ago, I'm the guy who in the heat of the summer is wearing a wool suit, riding a 25-year-old bicycle across city, as going to an athletic sports store that everything is made from petrochemicals. That's the absolute fact. If we want action on the environment, let's get away from this nonsense what clean energy is. Clean energy, what is suggested now, is not really so clean. It is a net zero effect. And that's why, and all you have to do is take a look at what is being purported now is clean energy. Now I certainly have supported alternative energy products for nearly 40 years of my career, nearly 40 years. That starts with what are things that I think are most important, the one that gets very little publicity on it. In actual fact, and even in the most ridiculous notions in what's called, what was written up first on called the Green New Deal, when they talked about high-speed rail, they missed it. It actually starts with wide cargo rail. Then you're getting into high-speed rail. But that was 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, in fact, where this greatest effect would have been, or we could have ensured that our cities weren't so overcrowded and pressed with the infrastructure. So let's move past this and the fact of detach yourself from the idea that clean energy means the environment. They've weaponized it, they've given ideas to it, and that the marionette master, whoever is directing this, has made it a brilliant campaign everywhere, from every environmentalist claiming that this is what we need, this action. We actually need people to think about how they are consumers of society. This started in my youth, and it relates to us as a society, with our incessant consumer society, buying cheap things, renewing them, throwing them away. This isn't so much of a question of clean energy, but they're talking about, or they're not considering of how we as a society, our disposable culture, have led to a vast amount of wastes. So let's move past that. That gets into a major theoretical discussion, but in truth sits at the root of our cause of our problems. If we're really serious about the environment, we have to look at different sort of approaches. But it does not start or need to include EV and solar panels, wind turbines. It's just that simple. When we start looking at the broad scope of clean energy, understand clean energy is reliant on the so-called clean energy, my apologies, EV, electrification of vehicles. And that can go for broad, all sorts of vehicles on this. And certainly my generation does remember EVs. There wasn't a time not too long ago in our past that when our milk deliveries came in the very early morning, those trucks were electric, and they ran so quietly. It was early in the morning. What was delivery? 0400, 0500, something like that. EV, and we have to consider storage capabilities. Solar panels in wind turbines. Pardon me. What propels those? Mining, metals, minerals, and petrochemicals. It's just that simple. Now, one can argue on the energy created by said turbines, and for that matter, and solar panels. Absolutely. First of all, the things that you must understand with wind turbines and with solar panels, they're not the most efficient use. They're not the most efficient form of energy, development of energy. They certainly have a place in this broad scheme, in this broad puzzle, but to suggest that they are 100% of the answer is foolish. It's idiocy, to be quite honest. There's no way that we can sustain our quality of life, and basically putting ourselves into extreme societal decline and dropping levels of economic output and whatnot. It's absolutely ridiculous, and any suggestion of that just merely shows the fallacy of such individuals and their efforts. Again, clean energy. Politicians use this because it divides and it gains votes. Wind turbines, let me just say, wind turbines are not made of wood or whatever you might want to call it. It's petrochemicals. There is no polymer tree in the forest, people. It's an extraordinary advanced petrochemical. And with it, there's steel and whatnot and cabling, a tremendous amount of it. And what you'll find out, with wind turbines, yes, what really is crucial with solar panels is the lubricants that keep these parts running. Yes, mobile oil is, I believe, I could be wrong, is the leader of that sector of lubricants for solar panels. I could be wrong, but you might want to check on that. Simply wind turbines, metal, petrochemicals, and it's reliant upon the petrochemical industry. That's an absolute fact. Whether it be a quality form of energy and for going for the future, one can debate that all you will, but I can tell you this: it's merely, in my opinion, a small piece of the entire puzzle. That's all it is. Solar panels, we have to also look at, and with wind turbines, we also have to look at the life expectancy of these pieces, how they run through, and of course the disposal of those things. Solar panels run on, again, metals and minerals. This is what really runs this energy source, and as far as the storage of those energies. We made the great mistake in 19, I believe it was 1998. It was the second Clinton administration. I argued vehemently against the outsourcing of rare earths, which up till that time was the world's production was overwhelmingly in Mountain Pass, California. The second Clinton administration essentially mothballed said operation, and effectively the production of rare earths thereafter has been outsourced to China. National security risk, an enormous national security risk. But this is where we also get into the issue of national security and what runs, we just talked about solar panels and wind turbines, copper, lithium, nickel, magnesium. We'll talk about graphite. I'm sure I'm going to miss a few little elements here and there. Part of me just talking off the top of my head, but you understand it. I'll be able to go through this in a better, and certainly vanadium works its way into there in that equation as well when we're talking about steel. It's reliant upon metals and minerals, just in basic. Now, when I mentioned as far as rare earths, and that it was a catastrophic error by the Clinton administration to allow the production to mothball said assets, mothball said production. It was a catastrophic error, and it really is a national security risk. So is the lack of domestic metals and mining, domestic mining within all countries, and just laying that outsource onto one region where possible, of course, where the geology complies with the availability of such. But it is an enormous risk for the United States not to be incentivizing and having significant production stateside. Should not be relied upon, and there are great assets in the United States that we should, if there is intention to spur the solar panel industry, the wind turbine industry, and for that matter EV and storage, it should be the production and the capabilities should first be incentivized and done domestically, and that also is where we can ensure the optimal environmental care of the production of it. Incentivize quality mining, work within. Now with EV, what has happened, and certainly we all remember, as I started on with that wonderful little anecdote as far as milk trucks that maybe a few of us might remember in our youth, those electric vehicles. We've seen EVs come and go, and we're good this time they are staying because they have been monetized, and there's vast amounts of money in this. Really right now, as we're looking at a couple of IPOs that are absolutely ridiculous, you can see the run to the investment community into the EV market, and we're all familiar with what's going on with Tesla. This is not a comment on the stock of any of these situations. I will say that for another time. What it is a discussion on EV. Is EV ready to take off, or are we being force-fed this? Well, I think you know the answer is we're being force-fed this. It will not be environmentally comfortable, and it will run into many problems. It is not ready for this, and we're going to spend an inordinate amounts of money dedicated to putting in sufficient charging stations and everything on this, when really one must ask, why is this being force-fed at this time? It's not about the environment. It has never been about the environment. It still isn't about the environment because no one's talking about how consumers produce, how consumers their habits of spending. If we really wanted to talk about saving or talking about the planet, we'd be talking of things of, I don't know, maybe processed foods, which are enormously damaging. And we'd also be talking, Dan, great to see you. We'd also be talking of, well, we're speaking over here over the internet. Why isn't anyone looking at this endless streaming world that works from home and constantly burning electricity? And that the cost is enormous to this. This isn't about the environment. This never has been about the environment. Clean energy is a phrase too that uses clean energy as its sales. It's its turn. It posts the images of the environment. It gets activists speaking about it. Then it gets its turns. It destroys industries and it moves them out. And it works to one place's favor. Now, today, after I made this decision to post this video, I found a couple of old tweets I made, and trust me, there are many more, countless more back, probably much further back in earlier part of the 2010s, and I might even be able to find things earlier than that if I went offline in arguments, or relatively easy, and I could find that. is the fact that only one country has been investing sufficiently in metals and minerals that are I would call it the propellant, the propeller of the clean energy movement, EV, solar panels, wind turbines. Only one country. And it becomes very suspicious because that one country is China. Now, first of all, I believe in commodities, and I believe the great era of the financial investment community, of our financial investment community in the late 1990s, was basically pulling back on the driving push to get young investors interested in commodities. Commodities, it's crucial. Things that don't worry about worry about the things that make these toys. That's the truth. And that's one of the great problems that we have now. We don't invest sufficiently in commodities, and we haven't for nearly a quarter of a century. So, but again, this is all playing into China's wheelhouse, and one has to really understand that. Who benefits from all of this? China. Who pays the cost of this? Well, let me also tell you this, the events right now, and certainly we can see this echoed in Peru or the recent mine closings, we're going to see this replicated. And there's going to be animosity because the countries, certainly we've seen it recently in Mexico. I think we'll see this in Central America. I've certainly heard rumblings, and we're going to see this through South America. And we can certainly look at some of the African countries, some very peculiar situations happening there. Pardon me, just reading this message, is the fact that, or situations that those parts of the world that produce these great crucial metals and minerals are wise to, as the Western world gets infatuated with its new EV sports car, or putting up solar panels around the world, around their communities, and wind turbines to propel whatever it may be, what to make these work is coming out of their communities, and they're the ones putting in the hard work. They're the ones lifting the heavy weight, but they're the ones who aren't getting paid. This is going to create enormous upheaval. There's going to be vast changes in the mining sector, and they're going to face a lot of challenges with demands over royalty payments as this accelerates. And it's an absolute fact. Now, China has gained control over many of these markets. It's working its evil hand on this one, and it's an absolute fact. All we have to do is look at cobalt in the Congo. I've talked about this for years. So don't think this is about the environment. Don't think this is merely an innocent political situation. This is to gain your votes, and this is to pull the money. China wins by this whole game, and they are the absolute winner, despite America being energy independent with its extraordinary, strong, reliable, and reliable petrochemical oil and gas sector. Extremely reliable, and that's a crucial fact. Again, if we were talking about the environment, it would be a total different thing. So what really makes clean energy? Well, clean energy, the phrase I want to emphasize to you, clean energy has nothing to do about being clean. Again, I've invested heavily in the alternative energy since the mid 1980s, and I've always thought of myself as let's say an environmentalist in action. As I said, clean energy is reliant upon those metals and minerals: copper, zinc, vanadium, lithium, cobalt, nickel, tin, graphite, rare earths. And it's a very interesting one. I still think he did a great comment on this. It was the CEO of First Majestic, Mr. Keith Neumeyer, and I liked his comment as far as you can't make a solar panel without silver. It's an absolute fact, but it highlights something far greater. Clean energy, again, is reliant on metals and minerals. We don't invest. One thing that I'm going to suggest to all investors is start considering this. If you really want to talk about patriotic investment, or if you really want to talk about investing for the future, and consider what the future might be for you, because you're all reading this, I believe, in either a first language or a language that you have great command of, is the fact of, if you don't start investing in this, what will the future be, and how quickly can you learn Mandarin? Okay, it's just that simple. Clean energy is driven by mining. Now, we should have many more mining. We should ensure mining is, we should, spur, incentivize the domestic mining. And also, I would say we also have to open up a better channel to mining in Canada. But it has fallen completely out of favor in the North American investors for what, a quarter century now? And the lack of weighting of commodities in the S&P is perfect evidence of this. So, while we have seen tech advance, these metals are crucial for tech. If we reverse this trend, it would bring jobs back to the United States. They're crucial for domestic industry. But it's also that we must ensure that red tape is eliminated and mining is incentivized to bring a new sector, new group of investors into. I remind you, China has all but cornered the cobalt market. Pardon me. And I've also told you what its activities in copper as well, very strong, and it's doing its best within nickel as well. But this is where, if we really want to bring tech jobs back to the United States, it's critical that domestic mining be incentivized. Now, certainly when we get into this, it runs into a lot of political situations, because each politician will in some way, shape, or form, may or may not talk of incentivizing mining in some degree, but they'll use it under different terms. It's crucial that we bring mining back or incentivize mining domestically, but we cut out that red tape, but do not allow it further to be outsourced. Out of source, out of mine is putting some very perilous type of projects into the hands of others and not into our control. Clean energy, again, is not so clean. And this is where, when we start talking about the Green New Deal, and the Green New Deal is an interesting situation, because in truth, is the Green New Deal, and whatever term or however version that you want of it, really doesn't have any hard facts. A socialist agenda, without question, whether or not you took the original February 2019 document that was just a political rallying point, and updated ones, and that there is no hard facts on this, nor is there anything that will actually spur the development of environmental action that really matters, as opposed to action that will really cause extreme economic problems, and for that matter, be a zero-sum game. And if you want to look at how this zero-sum game is played out, just consider how China is pumping up its coal production. We don't have any hard facts of this of Green New Deal, and I doubt that we ever really will get hard new facts that really cross a Green New Deal with something that was presently put into play now with an infrastructure. What I can tell you, what we do see now, is pork. A great deal of pork that has nothing to do with bettering the economy with so-called greener forms of alternative energy that will spur the economy or maintain our economy and our way of life. It is all simply a hustle, and that's really what I want to emphasize. If you so wish, I will talk to you about the one that many people wish to avoid, and that is really one that I've pressed upon people investing in, I would say, for not quite 5 years, and that is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is clean energy, and that really is the issue here. Now, the vilification, the problem that through this is the vilification, and I've told you this since July of 2020, prior to the November election, that the new administration, should it be elected as it was, that it will vilify the petroleum and domestic petroleum and natural gas sector. Would lead to really an energy crisis, and for that matter, rapidly escalating WTI prices. That's why I suggested to you that, and we're going back quite a bit, that in the future we will see an acceleration of the move to WTI above the $100 mark or more. It's very uncomfortable. And it's just a simple fact here. But if we want to talk about clean energy, we go towards nuclear energy and the developments of nuclear energy that are really quite extraordinary in recent years that go well, one has to look well past what was going on in the 1980s and see how it has emerged now with much smaller forms of reactors and whatnot. Tremendous development in the nuclear energy area. But we also have to understand the finest form and the most regulated form of petrochemicals and the oil sector is domestic. That is domestic. And I would also say we want to look at really within North America. That's where we should be looking at. That's where we have better control of, and that's where we have a better way to really have a strong impact upon bettering our environment, and also making sure and bettering our environment and maintaining our quality of living and standard. So that's probably where I want to conclude today. I will have more further discussions on this. I want to go into this as far as into the deeper ideas of what really clean energy is for you, how one should be investing in metals and mining, and for that matter, respecting the importance of our domestic oil and natural gas sector, including pipelines. Remember, the vilification of pipelines is absolutely horrible. Pipelines are the most efficient and efficient method and an environmentally friendly method of transporting energy. Unfortunately, the present administration vilifies pipelines and will continue to be so. But I want to touch upon these today. I want to touch upon this today, answer questions, and as also open up the topic so everyone can share it a little more openly. Okay, so that about does it for today. I want to thank everyone for joining me for this special Sunday afternoon discussion. I will see everyone tomorrow at 0600. And for new viewers who are watching this later on replay, I hope to see you join our group. Again, thank you very much. I'm John Davies, and I'll be back tomorrow. Just to remember, 2021, be the